Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome to my live stream. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to wait a couple moments and see if we'll be getting anybody joining in with us live. Yesterday, I shared a video talking about the stages of development of consciousness. And I talked a lot about that. And I've been getting more and more clarity and more insights on this as I kind of explore it deeper. And so it feels very important to continue to share on this, but in a much more, today it's going to be, so yesterday it was kind of just expanded from the perspective of consciousness. That's how it started. And then we kind of got into talking a little bit about how that progression goes into the human development of consciousness specifically. And I want to continue to expand on this because I think that this clarity, I haven't heard a lot about it on this planet. I have heard the most that I've heard about this is through different channelings from the star families, because they have a higher perspective outside of the human species, you know, so, and individually we can get these perspectives ourselves. But it feels like what wants to come through now is more precision, you could say, of like really understanding this in a deeper way, because it seems like it's been kind of vague. And the reason it was kind of vague is because the potential wasn't opened up for us to really move into it as a collective yet. It wasn't fully there yet. And now that potential has completely opened up for all possibilities and all potentials. And so the clarity is there to actually even really perceive this in a more like a tangible way, so we can actually have a vision of it. Because that's what needs to happen. We need to be able to see a vision of this, a clear vision, get a clear sense of this type of feeling state, you could say, this frequency, as we move into higher states of consciousness. We need to be able to feel that and embody that fully. And that's how you hold a vision, basically. You see that vision, you can feel it, you can hold it, it's sustainable within your being, so then it gets created. And so that's what I want to do. I want to continue to expand on this so we can have a crystal clear clarity, okay? And I want to also really preface this though, because we're still moving out of the person-mind level of consciousness, okay? And so in the person-mind level of consciousness, it's all about separation. It's all about separation. All about separation. And so what that means is that the way the person mind will perceive even what I'm going to share, the person mind can't even understand what I'm going to share. Okay. What the person mind will try to do is try to take the words that I'm sharing and put it in a box of fear and separation, and then try to structure it in there and be like, oh, yeah, I get it. I know all about consciousness because I'm so conscious and I'm so enlightened and you're not. And look, I can see how you're not enlightened and how you're at this stage of consciousness and I'm at this stage of consciousness. That's what the person mind likes to do. It loves to do that. It's its favorite thing to do. That's all the person mind actually knows how to do, to be honest with you. It's been created. It's not like you're doing anything wrong. It's that the person mind was created with that type of programming to just see separation and see insecurity and see like fear and see judgments and like this kind of competition that's really truly believed, you know, not like a fun, playful competition, like a kind of like, I'm better than this person and I have to pretend I'm better than this person. I have to believe I'm better than this person. Otherwise I might die. Something terrible is going to happen and I'm not going to be good enough. And then I'm going to be all alone and rejected and I'm going to be homeless and I'm going to not have enough food. And, you know, it's like, it goes into the most extreme ideas of fear that are so subconscious. And that's why it keeps projecting those types of ideas. And there's like a complete lack of awareness in the person mind to even see what it's doing. And so we all have a person mind. We're on this planet. We all have a person mind. So it's okay that you have a person mind. We're not trying to reject the person mind even. Okay, we're not trying to reject it because you can't reject it. What wants to reject it is the person mind. Will be like, you know, it'll try to reject it. And that's not actually how you heal anything. how you heal things. And when I say heal, I'm basically meaning you balance things out. And so those charges aren't there anymore. Because when there's a charge there, it pulls something in, pulls in these kinds of experiences, pulls in these, it's like an energy. It's like you become a magnet when you have a charge. So we have to balance these charges in the person mind by just holding the space for our person mind, seeing it, loving our person mind unconditionally, and just saying, oh, I see that that is my person mind. That's okay. And I'm not that. That's not what I am. That thought is in front of me. I am seeing that thought. That's not what I am. I don't believe that thought, even though part of my being might believing that thought. Like my body is contracting and there is some kind of part of my being that seems to be believing it, but I'm the one seeing it and I'm not believing those thoughts. That's how you untangle yourself from the person mind, not by rejecting it, not by judging other people's person minds, not by judging your own person mind, none of that. You just see, oh, it's all perfect. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. And that's not what I am. It's not what I am. And that's the integration. So integration, when you stop pushing things away and just realize, oh, okay, it's part of what I am, but it's not like what I am as the entirety and I have to identify myself with it. It's just a part of what I am. It's just, oh, okay, there's a tree over there. That's a part of what I am too, but I'm not believing I'm that tree. Kind of like that. So today, as I share more on this, I want to invite you to really tune in with your heart and let your heart be like hearing this. Okay, so if you're not familiar with using the heart system, I'm going to talk more about the heart system this week. But after I do more sharing on this, you'll actually get a clear understanding of the relevance and importance, profound importance of the heart system. And then we'll dive deeper into talking about how to actually get into your heart system, how to utilize your heart system, and all that's available, how you can actually utilize it in a very, very powerful way. But for now, you can start to utilize your heart system right now by just, if you're not familiar with it, imagining that what I'm saying is just those words are kind of moving in through your heart. So that's all you do. Just kind of like use your imagination and just like, oh, yeah. So it sounds silly, but it's fun when you do it like that. And then it works. That's how I do it. So simple. So there's like kind of an awareness that'll be here and you'll just be receiving the information through here. My brother's on here. Hi, how are you, Ben? So I'm going to actually write this out too on paper or like online. And I'm going to make like a chart. So this information, because there's a lot of information. It's a lot of information on this chart I made. So, but I'm going to take it step by step because it's so much information on here. I didn't want to give it all to you at once so we can kind of go one by one so we can understand this. So I talked about the densities, and I want to take it out of the density idea altogether though too, because it is, I guess, densities. It is like density is like really how heavy, that's what it feels like. How heavy is the energy? Okay, in that area, how heavy is the energy? And what makes the energy heavy is how many heavy thoughts are being believed. Because those heavy thoughts are in your field and they're like mental containers. And so everything gets filtered through those heavy beliefs, basically, that are in the field of you. So that's how things are experienced. And so as you move into lighter densities, then things start to feel lighter. Things start to feel much lighter and more open and expanded. There's more effortlessness. There's more ease. Everything starts to flow with you. You get in the flow state. So that's kind of just an overall explanation of like what the densities are. But I don't want to talk so much in the numbers anymore. I want to have other, and that's how I'm going to share it today, is have other qualities to describe this. So it's not like school. Because if we just stay in the numbers, oh, there's third density, fourth density, I'm in the fifth density, you're in the fourth density, it's kind of like the person minds can try to start to grab onto these numbers, kind of like a middle schooler or something, and be like, I'm in a higher grade than you, and, you know, do silly stuff like that. So it's not about numbers, because actually what you see, you know, and I didn't explain this clearly yesterday. I didn't explain this. But what is the truth is that you actually have access to all the densities in every single moment. You are all of them. You are all of them. In every single moment, you have access to all of them. So how you're experiencing these as a human being is there's a portion of your consciousness that's in the mind that moves through these. So there's a fluidity of this. So one moment there could be, you know, because like every moment is a new universe. Okay. So we're getting out of the linearity too, because the person mind will see only linearity, but it's not, this is beyond linearity. Okay. Because in one moment there could be an expression that is in the person mind perspective. And then in the next moment, it could be a perspective that is in the perspective of the absolute. It could transition so extreme in a way. It could go so extreme, the transition of this. And the more that you're embodied at different states, at higher states of consciousness, you could say, then the easier it is for you to actually let whatever density experience or thought to come up and arise, and you won't really identify with it so much anymore. So a thought could come up, but it's like you can't actually really you can't fully experience like a person mind perspective. You can feel that perspective, but you can't be completely lost in it, you would say. But from the person mind perspective, there's just a fluidity, okay? Because you could be in a person mind perspective and then you go into a deep state of awakening all of a sudden, and you have a moment where you're in the absolute, and then it could be lost, and then you get out of the absolute and you come back and you're just totally fear-based thoughts. And in another moment you're that, another moment you're in a different density. So they're so fluid, it could change moment to moment. So we're not boxing ourselves in either. And you can't box people in and be like, oh, you're in this density, you're in this density. It's not like that. It's fluid. It changes moment to moment. Okay. But how you would perceive somebody that, like if you're in a core, like you have a kind of a default. You have a default that you keep, that your mind keeps moving back into. That's what it is. And that default is based off of how much you could say purification has happened through your mind. Okay. And when I'm saying purification, I'm not saying this in a judgmental way. Like there's some people that are pure and other people that are not pure. I'm not, and that's not what it's about. Okay. But what it is like, it's more of a clarity. Okay. It's more of a clarity of, oh, I'm not in any of these thoughts. So the more that you actually are not identified with any thoughts of the mind, then the more pure the expression is, because you don't get stuck and land on any specific thing. So you just stay as pure awareness, pure consciousness, seeing it all. And then there's a natural kind of intuition that the heart is utilized to actually know what's relevant and what's not relevant. And so the further you go in the densities, the heart system becomes more and more and more powerful as to depict relevance for the good of all, you would say. Okay. So, so there's so much information on this. I feel like I could write a book about this stuff right now. Okay, so I'm going to start with, so this is kind of the title of it. Okay, Development of Human Consciousness. Can you guys see that? Okay, so there's just a lot of information, so I don't want to overwhelm everybody with this because it's too many things to look at. But I just want to start with one kind of area at a time. Hopefully you guys can see that. So this is the person mind area, okay? And this has been called like third density. But we could take it out of the numbers altogether and just call it the person mind, which I know all of you guys have a sense of this. And if it doesn't make sense for you to call it person mind because you really do feel like you're a person, that's totally okay. I really, I love that perspective too, to be honest with you. And I intend to be sharing more in terminology that can meet people with where they're at, because not everybody's going to understand that that terminology of saying person mind. But what we could call it is the personal mind. The personal mind. So everybody understands, like, the part of the mind that takes every single thing personal. Okay, every single thing is looked at and filtered through, oh my God, this is about me and something's happening to me and something, but it's like something is going to happen to me kind of thing. It's everything, every single thing is about, it's like reflected in a bad way of something being personal. That's the person mind. And so what you see in the person mind is, there's such a strong feeling of separation. It's so strong in the person mind. It's very, very strong. That's just the core of what it is. It's like, it's almost such an extreme version of it, and really it's so interesting now for me to see back in the perspectives that I've had in my life of, such extreme separation where literally I was suicidal because it was like, oh my God, this is so intense. I can't even live anymore. I don't want to live anymore. This is too intense to be alive. That that kind of feeling of separation. It's not actually natural. And I don't want to say it in a judgmental way, like, oh, it's unnatural, but it's, what I mean by that is that it's so polarly opposite of what the truth of existence is. I mean, the truth of existence is that everything is, the one thing is connected. So to really feel so separate and that you are an isolated, fragmented, little tiny speck of nothing on, and that's all that you are. And there's nothing else to what you are. And at any moment, what you think you are could be completely annihilated. I mean, that's why there's so much fear in the person mind. Even if it's not said to be fear, a lot of times how we experience this fear in the person mind, you experience it in very intense emotions, even like rage or depression or, extreme violence, a lot of projection, or even more subtler things where it's just like, it's like bullying or, like kind of just like, there's no real deeper connection in some ways with other beings because there's this constant like feeling of competition of like, they're out to get me and I need to be careful because everybody's out to get me in some way. And I can't really trust anybody. And everybody, it's like a, it's like dog eat dog world. It's kind of like that. It's like that whole ideology, this whole ideology of like survival of the fittest, that Darwinism idea that got projected. That the thing is, I'm not negating that perspective. I'm not. That perspective was so true for what was being played out from the person mind. That perspective is like, yeah, it's survival of the fittest because it's so deeply, disconnected from the truth of existence that in that state, yes, you're like trying to survive. That's how it's experienced. It's truly authentically experienced that way. Like that is the truth. And it's the most polar opposite thing of what the actual truth is. It's so extreme, so extreme. So separation is the biggest thing that's run, the idea of like, I am totally separate from you. And that because you could even believe in separation to such an extreme, that's how you could actually commit very heinous crimes. And it could be seen, the person mind is so insane, to be honest with you. The person mind is so insane that it can come up with a logical explanation of why it needs to do the most extreme things. It can convince itself out of complete fear because the mind is such a powerful tool. So whatever the mind believes, if it believes that something is terrible is going to happen and it needs to focus on survival, then it will come up with any and every, such a powerful tool that it will just become like so focused on that and just will find any and every possible way to make that happen and convince itself and convince everybody else that this is what needs to happen. And it could be very convincing, and it could be easily to believe from that state of consciousness of the person mind. It's easy to believe that because if you're in that state of consciousness where that's all you can see is separation and fear, well, of course, if you hear very convincing 10-page reports on why we need to kill other beings, other human beings, well, then of course you could just go along with it because you're not at a state of consciousness to actually see outside of that perspective whatsoever. So it's very obvious, could say, that's why that even happens. But when you get outside of it, it's like, oh, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's like, it's complete irrationality. It's complete insanity. So in the person mind, there is constant judgment, and it could be self-judgment. So I hope you guys can see this okay. I'm going to write this out too in a form. So I'm going to expand more on this, but it's constant judgment. And the reason it's constantly judging either itself, which is very common. Sometimes you're not even experiencing judgment of others. It's just constant self-judgment. And then it could be that the self-judgment was so deeply ingrained and taught from a very young age and learned at a very young age, that then how it's actually experienced is constant projection of judgment. So it's not even seen consciously as I'm actually judging myself. It's just all you would experience is that person mind keeps talking and judging others. But underneath that is a very, very deep subconscious belief of I'm not good enough. And that's why it's constantly judging others, even though that might not be how it's perceived. So insecurity, and all of these things are stemming from separation. They are, if you believe you're separate, then you that's all that the person mind can perceive. It's like, I have to be afraid of others all the time because I'm so separate from them. And if they don't like me, or if I'm not good enough for them, then my survival is at stake. It's really so based off of survival. It's such an extreme survival-based level of consciousness. It's very rudimentary, honestly, when you get outside of it, that it could even be perceived like that. But that's what wanted to be experienced by us as consciousness. So that's why we created that stage of development for ourselves, to explore it. Not because we did anything wrong, or the civilization did anything wrong, or the people did anything wrong, not because of that. And I'm taking it out of looking at it at individual things, because the person mind wants to look and say, oh, this person did this. There was Hitler and there was this person, and no, they were just evil, bad people. Well, yeah, sure, if you want to say that, whatever you want to believe about it. But I'm looking at it from a bigger perspective of a whole, like sociologically. If you would look at it as a whole civilization and you wouldn't just be judging individual beings, then that energy is running in the whole collective. That's why it could even manifest in certain beings that would be considered to be leaders. How could those beings even be leaders unless that same type of energy is just running in the whole collective? That's a level of consciousness that was being believed altogether. So because it was being believed by the whole collective, then the leaders are just a representation of that level of consciousness. Not because the leaders were actually evil beings. No, they're just showing the representation of that. So there's a lot of jealousy, competition, scarcity, just continuous lack-based ideas, which is so opposite of what is the truth of existence, is that there's infinite abundance. The whole universe is for us here. For us, we could explore it in any way that we want, but it's constantly seen as there's not enough. Oh my God, no, I need to be scared. I need to hold on to resources. I need to hold on to this because I could die. I could lose this. Something could happen to me and I might not be safe. It's constantly being believed, that whole idea, which creates that kind of experience, perpetually creates that. And the whole collective has been believing these ideas. So then that's what the whole collective has been experiencing. That's why this world looks the way it looks right now. So yeah, I put here constant fear, stress, and worry. These are the thoughts that are constantly run: constant fear, stress, and worry. And to be honest with you, when you're so deeply in this state of consciousness, you can't see outside of it. When you're so deeply in it, you really can't see outside of it. It's like even trying to talk to somebody in a way of helping them see outside of it could just trigger them. If they're so deeply hypnotized by these fear-based ideas, it could completely trigger them and turn them into rage, or complete rage, or anger on you, just to even bring it up, because there's such a deep level of being hypnotized in that state of being, that it's like just even bringing up the idea is already threatening their whole idea of survival. Just even bringing that up. That's how unconscious the person mind is. And it's believed so strongly. And it's just completely hypnotized by it. Because there's not enough presence in that field. You know, how you could see this is like that person doesn't have any presence to actually feel what's happening right now. Like feel their body, feel, okay, I'm not these thoughts. I'm not this voice talking in the head. That's not what I am. I am here right now and everything is okay in presence. I'm okay. I'm here. I'm feeling my body. I'm here in the present moment. I feel my heart beating. I feel my breath. Like the presence it's like there's no presence there. So when there's no presence, it's just like thought after 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 thought. And it's just all believed thoughts. And all these thoughts that keep coming up have a constant pattern of fear and stress and worry. Every single one of them come up like that. And it's believed to be so true because there's so much evidence that the mind will keep bringing up to convince itself of why it needs to keep believing those thoughts. And there's no even wanting to even see other perspectives in that state when it's very deeply held on to, because any other perspective actually threatens it's the mind's perspective of its own survival. So it could be very, very deeply unconscious. And you see this is when you see the deepest level of unconsciousness is when you see wars happening and you see violence, extreme violence happening. That is the deepest level of the person mind. That's what it is. And we all have that energy within us. Okay, so you're not separated from that. That's part of you too. So it's very important to realize this, because the person mind, when you're starting to get out of the person mind and you start to get glimpses of higher states of consciousness, the person mind still tries to come back and say, well, no, I'm not like them. See, I can see outside of it. And it still wants to create separation and judgment and saying, oh, I'm more spiritual than that person. I would never do that. Only they would do that. And it's still the person is still running it. So yeah, maybe at that moment, you're not actually having a gun and shooting somebody or committing a very heinous crime, but there is for that, like there is still these kind of ideas that are being held on to of separation and judgment, because there's still fear in there of, I actually believe that if I'm not perceived as being someone who doesn't have those thoughts, then I'm at risk for not being loved. I'm not good enough. So there's like even these core things that aren't even realized, these core beliefs that are deeper that aren't even being seen. And there's not even enough self-awareness to see actually what the energy of these thoughts and ideas that are being projected and what you're saying you're being saying is actually where it's coming from. What energy is it actually coming from? So then the next level, and it's not really, when I say levels, I'm not saying it as like, I don't want it to be perceived in this way of like one is better than the other, because literally you can't, when you get out of all of these perspectives of and just be what you are with no identification with thoughts, and you have deep realizations, then what you see is that every single experience, there's not one better than another. Okay, it's perceived that way, but it's not really that, because consciousness is so infinitely intelligent. Consciousness created all of these things, and consciousness is what you are. And it's not something like something random. Oh yeah, it's just consciousness. And no, it's like literally your eyes and the awareness that you are is consciousness right now. And all that you're experiencing is you're believing that you're a person, and you're believing these ideas about development of consciousness. And none of that actually even exists. But we're in this play of some kind of development of something. So that's why these ideas are even being explored. But the truth of what you are, a deeper level, these ideas absolutely mean nothing whatsoever. So there is no level at all. In every single moment, you've always been what you are, which is the infinite consciousness of all of existence. And it's not in any ideas or thoughts whatsoever. It's deeply in presence. And you are the presence in every single moment. Every single moment, that's what you are. So maybe you're just having thoughts that are coming up saying you're not, or you're believing different thoughts for an exploration. That's fine. That's still not what you are. So the next stage is the empathic mind. And so I really broke this down into how you experience the mind, because the mind is how we have an experience of really this type of reality. Okay, the mind is what we're doing here. This is all mind. This whole experience is all based off of the mind. The mind is anything that's moving. So, how we perceive things from this individuated experience is through a filter of mind, until you're out of the filters of mind altogether. And I'm going to talk about that. But how you experience it is through a filter of mind. And that's how you would kind of maybe gauge your experience of your awareness, your level of awareness, you could say, by the thoughts that are coming up that you're believing or not believing, and by how much presence that you have within your mind, or how much lack of presence you have within your mind. So I think it's good to start to see it like this in some ways, because then, it seems to be like the mind is really what's going to start trying to grab a hold of this information. So it's helpful, it seems like, to start to relate it to the mind somehow. So then you can have an awareness and use the mind to help discern itself of what is truth and what's not. So the empathic mind is kind of the next phase. And this phase is really, it's kind of designed for emotional healing. It's really a stage just designed primarily for this. Move this a little bit so you guys can see this. I'm going to get a better system going here with this. I don't know if you guys can see that well, but this is emotional healing phase. Okay. So this phase, this is what the whole civilization is moving into. Okay, the whole civilization, and they're not doing it all at once. They're not doing it overnight. It's not going to happen like that. It's not going to happen because, like I said yesterday, if the whole civilization moved into the empathic mind overnight, just like that, which it could, consciousness could do that, but I don't perceive that timeline. I don't. It's anything is possible, but I don't, based off of everything how it's going right now, I don't perceive that timeline happening. But if it did happen, for example, how it would be experienced is everybody would literally be bawling, crying all the time, because it would be a major purge of all of these old heavy ideas and fears and thoughts. If you actually felt them in an empathic way, you started actually feeling your body and what those thoughts that were continuously being run, if you stopped identifying with them and you just literally completely could feel everything and how that energy felt in the physical body, you would be bawling, crying. You would be going through major triggers, just crying. Every single thing would trigger you. You would be just crying all the time, probably. You would be a major crying. Everybody on the planet would be going through that at the same time. And there might be a lot of suicide, because it could be very extreme, because the energy being run on this planet by the collective is very, very, very heavy. It's very heavy. And so it has to kind of happen. It appears in a slower process so that it can be a more gentle of an integration. So how you experience this is triggers are coming up. And so if they're coming up a lot, there's kind of a purge that's happening. And when you're in this phase, you've gotten out of the projection. Okay, it's not just projecting. Oh, it's just them. It's because of that person, and that's all this phase. It's all projection because all it sees is separation. So it's just projecting. It's projecting that what is arising has to do with them, and it's blaming, and then that gets into more separation, more judgment, and more scarcity, and then just more fear. But in this phase, the projection is stopped. It's not about projecting anymore. So there's a healing phase that's happening where it's like you're feeling everything that's coming up within your mind body system. You're actually why you're starting to feel this so deeply is because you've moved into the heart. You've moved into utilizing the heart system. Okay. And so it's kind of like I showed this here where it's like it's kind of it's expanding more. The awareness of the heart is it kind of expanding more. The heart awareness, I talked about that yesterday. And how you can start moving into more rapid heart awareness is just by bringing your attention into the physical heart and feeling your physical heart more and more and more. And if you can't feel your heartbeat yet, that's okay. But the more you practice, you'll just begin to feel it. You'll actually begin to feel your heartbeat. And that's a very good sign. If you're feeling your heartbeat and you're tuning in regularly, that you're really very heart-centered. Because you'll feel your sense of self here. That's where you will. You'll feel your sense of self in that heart, in the heart. So this phase, it really feels like this phase, the biggest focus is for emotional healing. Because it's almost like this phase has been so intense that this phase, the biggest focus is to heal all of these old fears, heal all of these old constant fear and extreme violence and all of that stuff. It's just a healing process. So it's if you've experienced this, if you went through different awakenings, how you experience that is there's just like, you're moving into the heart more and you're feeling like a lot of healing is happening there. There's a lot of healing happening and there's a lot of triggers that are being released and you're feeling into the heart more and there's a softening that's happening on your being. It's a softening. It's a profound softening actually that keeps going. You start softening, your being gets softened because in here, what this person mind creates, it like literally creates such a rigid structure of your being. It's like such a rigid structure that it's like that all the time, but you're not even realizing that. It's like there's kind of like this guarding, this constant wall up in the person mind when you're so deeply into it. And it's not even realized that that's what's going on. But it's just like, it's very hard. It's very hard. So here there's a softening that happens in your being. And so there's a focus on being. There's a focus that moves from the person mind just tends to be doing. It's doing. And the reason it's doing, it's always coming from fear-based ideas. It's fear-based ideas that are pushing for a doing. I need to do this, otherwise something bad's going to happen. So everything is moved from a fear. So there's a lot of constant doing happening because it doesn't want to focus on presence. It doesn't want to be in the being state and actually feel anything that's going on. Because if you started to feel it, would feel too intense because it would start bringing up emotional healing. And the person mind doesn't want to go into emotional healing because it doesn't want to feel anything. It's like, oh my God, no. Because as soon as it starts feeling something, it's already associated feeling anything as that's a fear. That means you're weak. Oh, someone's going to take you over. Someone sees that you're actually feeling your emotions. Then that means you're a weak person. And there's all these ideas of fear that are even so deeply, every single thing is seen through the lens of fear. Every single thing in the person mind. It's so extreme, every single thing. And it's believed so, so strongly. So this is what we're moving into as a collective. We're moving into the focus on being and being more in presence. There's kind of, people are, when they're first starting to move in this, they're having kind of these awakening experiences that are kind of shifting them, and your life might start to change. What you were doing before just doesn't feel in alignment anymore. There's kind of a like lessening of like working maybe so much just to be able to focus on being more. Because it's like a phase of healing almost, really. It's like a phase of healing, and it needs that like softness, and it needs that spaciousness to be able to go through an emotional healing process from all of the old fears that have been coming up throughout your life. So the next phase is the empowered mind. Okay, empowered mind. This is going to get dangerous. Okay. So in the empowered mind, really, this is, a lot of you guys already, and this is why if you notice, I put these, there's like a fluidity between this. Okay, this is why they're not solid bars, because it's a fluidity between these different phases. Because you, as you're progressing in your own realizations and in your own development of your own individual consciousness, well, you might be moving back and forth between these. It might be like a zigzag that's happening. Like one moment you're in here in separation, judgment. The next moment you're in crying and you're like, we're going through an emotional release. The next moment you're focused on like some new creative inspiration and you're feeling really empowered. It could be zigzagging like this. Could be zigzagging moment to moment. It's not like, oh, you're just the person mind and that's all that you are. No, it's not. It's very fluid. Could be very fluid. But we tend to have kind of a defaulted area of focus, a default, based off of the amount of beliefs or the types of beliefs that are held on to. And so the more beliefs that we let go of, honestly, and the more time you spend in presence, where you're not focused on beliefs and ideas, then the more healing that happens, and your defaulted natural state becomes more into a different level than the person mind. So, and it can become very, very accelerated. I mean, if you sat and just sat meditating constantly, then you just keep moving. It's a very fast, the longer you stay in meditation, and I'm not telling you guys to stay in meditation because you have to tune into your highest excitement. So we'll talk about that, so it's not necessary for everybody to stay in meditation, but if you're feeling a pull for it, then go and sit in meditation. But because meditation is a very advanced, a very accelerated path to healing all of these old person mind beliefs. So as you're progressing, what's happening is the person mind ideas are releasing more and more as you keep going. They keep releasing more and more and more. So you're getting lighter and lighter as you progress. You're getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Lighter and lighter and lighter. You're feeling better. You're feeling more, you're feeling better. You feel more like yourself again. So in the empowered state, the empowered mind is a creative focus. So, you're feeling very empowered in your being. You're realizing, oh, I'm the creator of my reality, and I can choose thoughts that I focus on, and I get to choose what I focus on, and that's what creates my experience. And so you feel very empowered in that. Really, the more that you're rooted in here, and this is where a lot of you guys who are tuning into my sharings, this is where we are moving into right now as our kind of our community. There's a bigger focus on this right now in this area, which is wonderful because we need this, because we are basically stepping into this so we can actually help the collective actually realize themselves as more empowered beings. But we're helping them a lot right now, moving into the emotional healing phase and just feeling their emotions. But we're also, because it's fluid, we're also helping them see that they're also empowered. Because sometimes people, the fear-based ideas is I'm not empowered. So it's kind of fluid. It's not totally just, oh, okay, if you're here, you're not in any creative focus whatsoever. That's why I'm saying it's fluid. But there is a default and there's a place that you are kind of anchored in more often than not, you could say. Your mind is focused in more often than not. So from this empowered mind focus, if this was your defaulted area that you were in most of the time, then this is your focus. You are just like creatively focused. You're very, it's very focused on what it is you're doing. And it could be, to be honest with you, it could be a focus and a realization too. Because what you'll see a lot of times, you'll see in beings here who are very focused in this, they have a lot of regiments of like spiritual practices, meditation. They're like, I'm going to realize myself, very focused, very dedicated, very determined, very kind of like just tunnel vision energy. Okay. It's kind of a masculine energy that gets integrated here. Okay. But there is a deepening still into the heart, because the reason that you could even have this level of focus is because you're so much more heart-centered. Like the heart awareness is getting more and more expanded here. And because you're so heart-centered and you're trusting the heart more and more, you clearly know if a thought doesn't feel in alignment or not. If it feels bad, you know it's not in alignment and you don't believe it. So then your focus actually becomes more solid, because you're not going to focus on thoughts that are out of alignment. You're not going to believe them. It's your focus is becoming so solid. I'm like, no, this is what I'm focused on. I don't need to believe those thoughts. And you're using the heart system to just tell you in each moment of, is this true or not? And you know if it's true, and if it's in alignment, if it feels good, it feels expansive, it feels open, that creates more creativity, more energy to actually keep creating and focusing. If you actually really were deeply tuned into the heart, you wouldn't be able to know in every single moment this thing, and you wouldn't waste time. You'd be very effective and efficient. So there's a lot of regiments that are sometimes done, and it could be regiments for creative focus. It could be regiments for spiritual practices, or for meditation practices, or for self-realization even. It's just, there's kind of this sense of empowerment where your energy's not so spaced out with other beings anymore. You're not just so like, oh, what about this person, or what about that person, or what are they thinking? Or it's not that. You've actually gotten to such a level of mastery within your own being that your mind has quieted enough, and you're so much more heart-centered of knowing what's true and what's not, what's in alignment or what's not. So the mind is filtered through the heart in such a powerful way, and there's such a clear clarity of focus that comes in. So there's definitely like an emotion, very emotionally centered here, very emotionally centered. Okay. Whereas in this area, this is an emotional healing phase. So it's not necessarily emotionally centered here, to be honest with you, because there's, like I was saying yesterday, there's so many lack-based ideas that are still in this level of mind from the person mind, because it's moved past the person mind of all of these heavier things. And there is a softening happen. It's more focused on being and presence, but, there's not really a balance here, because it's almost like there's such a healing phase going on. It's like a healing phase, to be honest with you. And because it's such a healing phase, it's a necessary healing phase, though. You guys need to understand this. You cannot progress and have this as your defaulted state until you have really moved into this. You can't, it's not possible. You can't just skip over something. But sometimes from the person mind perspective, it wants to just go straight to the empowered part. And that's okay. Like the person mind needs to be empowered, because a lot of the fear-based ideas are coming that are not empowered. But there also needs to be a balance, because if you just went so empowered, if you went straight to empowerment, this is what you see. The person mind that is so empowered, it's still coming from fear-based ideas. Then what it does is it's still seeing so much separation. So then it's empowered and it starts taking from others, because there's not a deeper level of empathy that's been integrated. So that's what you see. The people that are empowered, that have been on this planet, that have been running fear-based ideas, they created, in some ways without realizing it, they've created imbalances in our collective. And I'm not blaming any specific person. It's just, I'm trying to give you an example of what would happen, because a lot of times the person mind wants to jump straight to here and doesn't want to go into the emotional healing phase that's required to evolve your consciousness, because it doesn't want to actually feel what's going on in the heart. Because as you go into here in the emotional healing phase, you actually have to start. This is the key. The key to advancing your consciousness is through the heart. End of story. Your consciousness is not going to advance if you are not in the heart. End of story. It's not going to whatsoever. The mind might think it's advancing, but it's just coming from, it's like diluting itself almost. It just keeps creating more ideas and concepts and trying to get its way because it doesn't actually want to feel the pain of all of this fear of base ideas and feel what's the truth of what's actually going on. It wants to keep lying to itself, and you can't lie to yourself with the heart. The heart knows everything, knows everything. So when you move into the heart, you can't believe the mind anymore and all of its kind of constant, well, I don't know why I'm doing this. So maybe like it wants to keep perpetuating that illusion. And you do know, your heart knows everything. So, but maybe the mind doesn't want to feel certain things. That tends to be what happens. So it wants to go, oh, I'm going to go straight to the empowered and be very empowered. But that level of empowerment, if you don't go into this emotional healing phase and get into the heart and you just try to come into ideas, or I'm just going to focus on my creative focus and not feel anything, it's going to be all up in here, you're going to create something that is hurting other people without even realizing it. Because you can't actually feel from your heart what the effects of what it is you're creating are causing. And that's what we see a lot of on our planet right now. And so that's why I'm showing you this is kind of stages, okay? And it's fluid, but we need to go through every stage. You do. It's for you to have this stage be your defaulted stage and it to be at a higher level of consciousness, then you have to go through the emotional healing phase. You have to go through the being focused. You have to focus on being, presence. You have to be in presence. You have to focus on presence. Because when you're in presence, then that's when you'll start feeling the heart. The more time you spend in presence, you naturally will start feeling your heart. Because that's where you are. It's where you've always been. It's just the mind's been saying something else and it's been just talking nonstop and it's been creating a constant hypnosis. So, but in this phase, and this is, I guess, so this is like the third, this is like the fourth, this is like the fifth. Okay, we were talking about, because I'm relating it to that just so you guys can start to see that this is, I want you to tune into this, into your own realizations too in meditation. And like I said, when I got these insights have been coming to me, it hasn't been coming as the numbers, but I did get these very clear distinctions. And guess what? They line up with the numbers that the star families have been channeling to us. So this is what it is. This is just what's going on right now. But we're not limited by that either. We're not. So even if we've had projections from the star families, I want to bring this up and really bring this up because there's been a projection from the star families, not in a bad way. They've been assisting us. They have been assisting us. And I'm so incredibly grateful. They've been assisting me so profoundly. The star families have assisted me so much on my path. I've had a very strong connection to them. And, they have had ideas based off of what we were running, the energy that we were running, based off of what was coming up. They don't know all the potentials. They can't predict the future. Nobody can predict it. We get to create our future. We have that power to create our future. So they've been projecting, we're moving into, fifth kind of. We're going to be moving into fifth dimensional or density level of consciousness. And they've had those projections, but they don't hold those projections because I've tuned in with them and I said, that's not what I see. And the beings that are connected with me are so excited that I am at this kind of level of empowerment, you could call, that the perspective that is able to come through my being, because it's not me with this vision. I don't care either way about these visions, to be honest with you. My mind is deeply surrendered to anything that wants to come through. But the visions that have been coming through to my being is past fifth density, fifth dimension. Okay. So because there's no limitations within my mind that are believed anymore, that's why this vision could even come through. So, and the star families, even though they have said those ideas of, oh no, we're moving into fifth density or fifth dimension, they don't hold that over us either. They are so excited to hold a higher perspective with us for us to move into unity consciousness in sixth density, you could say. So that's what I see for all of us. I see it so clearly, and I can't believe anything else. So we can move past all the projections, even the star families, and that's what we're doing. So this, though, is kind of where we have a focus, I would say, right now. A lot of us are kind of moving into more empowerment areas. And if this could be empowered even to have a realization. And that's what I see too. A lot of us are being very empowered to know that we can realize ourselves. It's so powerful for me to realize that I could actually realize myself. Or what seems to be coming through now, we're also being very empowered to realize we can create what we want on this planet. We can create a totally new civilization that has never been believed that is possible before. We can create it now. We are empowered enough in our own beings. We have the focus. We've done enough healing and enough emotional healing. We've had enough focus on being in presence, and we keep focusing on presence more and more, and we're continuously focusing on presence. So we are empowered enough now to actually create the civilization that we want to experience. And we are so connected with our true self that we're letting go of all these old beliefs saying it's not possible. And we're focused on it. We're focused on it. We're focused on it. Focusing on it every day, focusing on it. We're focusing on our practice of presence every day with our regimens. We're focusing on our meditation every day. We're focused on being aware of awareness. We're focused on asking what wants to come through my being for the highest good of the service to be created. We're focusing on these things every day. We're very determined. We're emotionally centered. And when I'm saying emotionally centered, I'm not saying, oh, we're not feeling our emotions. If something's coming up, we're going right into it. We're feeling it right here, right now. So we're allowing it to be there and realizing that's not what we are. So there's a very fast healing process that happens. We've gotten so good at this healing process. It's just like, oh, okay. So it's just like we're letting these old person mind ideas just move through us. We're like doing a purge in a very quick method. It's like purge, you go through a trigger and you feel all the energy and you don't resist it. So then it moves through your being and then you're back in bliss again. And you're focused on creating, you're focused on your realization, you're focused on your meditation, you're focused on your practice. We're very focused right now. That's what we're doing because we are very empowered beings. And so this could be perceived in this stage as a doing focused area. And it's just perceived that way. It's perceived that way because there is that kind of like masculine, there's kind of a masculine energy to this. And so I'll expand on this more, but how I actually have seen it now is what it is the absolute also source energy is masculine, feminine energies. Everything is masculine and feminine energies. Okay, so it's balancing itself out through this evolution of consciousness. It's balancing itself out. Okay, so when it comes from source energy, then it moves into, say, the first density, and it's like working with the elements, and it's kind of like forming the elements together to create these kind of structures. That's kind of a masculine energy that it starts. Then it moves into second density, and that is a very feminine energy. It's like nature starts birthing the animals, the animal kingdom. It's a feminine energy of just this, how nature moves. Nature just keeps birthing life. So that's a feminine energy. And then in the person experience, the person mind experience, this is a masculine based energy. It's very mind based energy. Okay. Very masculine, very mind based, but it's kind of the egoic mind, you could say. And then in this, when you're moving into the empathic mind and you're moving into this is where the heart awareness begins. Okay. This is where heart awareness begins. This is focused on being. This is a feminine energy. Okay. And then when we move into the fifth density, you could say in the empowered mind, this is moving into more of a masculine energy again. Because it's very like focus, moving forward, focus. We're creating, we're moving forward, we're determined, we're dedicated. So that's what's been coming through, for a lot of us right now. It's like we're moving into that. And so then to continue on, I'm going to just let this go. So then it's into the unity mind. Okay. And this is where I see that we are going. This is where our community, our global community that we are creating with all these different grid points on the planet. I know you guys have had visions of this too. We're all having the same vision. Okay. And it's actually happening now because we're empowered enough to know that we can create this. We know it's possible and we're connected. We've released enough beliefs of disempowerment and beliefs of lack and limitation within our own being because we are realizing ourselves and we're practicing presence more and more and more, practicing ourself as awareness more and more and more. We're in a heightened state of self-awareness. We're not believing those old person mind thoughts of lack and limitation anymore. So we know we can create anything we want. So this is what we're creating. We are creating unity consciousness with the unity mind. And in this state of consciousness, there is deep compassion that is embodied, okay? Deep compassion. Because I talked about in this state yesterday, so when you move into this, it's like there is this empathic feeling, you know, you're starting to feel the empathic mind. Okay, you're starting to feel into your heart, so you're feeling everything. It can be a lot of emotional healing, and that actually creates more compassion to actually start to feel each other. It's like it's required. It's required. This phase. It's required. So don't run away from it, because the only thing that wants to run away from it is the old person mind. And so then when we move into this phase, it can, because we're so focused, it could be perceived sometimes from, if you had a perspective of lack, it could be perceived that there's less compassion in this phase. It's more focused, dedicated, determined. You know, it's kind of like you have to just focus your consciousness on, you're not perceiving others in lack, and that allows for a deep focus of consciousness. And then when you move into this phase, there is deep compassion that's embodied. And so that allows you to see and be connected to all perspectives. So you're still not going to perceive anything in lack. You're even more, your heart awareness is so strong here in this stage. You're so deeply in the heart. You can't not be in the heart here. It's not possible for you to really not be in the heart when you're embodied here. You're in the heart. It's not possible. You're in the heart. You're in the heart. All the time. You are the heart. That's what you are. So you're always feeling your heart, basically. And so you're connected to all perspectives. So you could see even the person mind perspective, even the most extreme perspectives, you can see them and realize that you are one with them. And you can hold that space for those perspectives with a deep level of compassion. And so from this level of mind, you see the bigger picture of everything. You know, this level, you're not really seeing this phase. You're not really seeing the bigger picture, but you're focused on a vision. You're focused on a vision. You see the vision, and you're just focused on the vision. But you're not seeing from the perspective of the vision and seeing backwards and seeing all the bigger picture. And that's okay. But when you get here, you can see the bigger picture of things. You can get a more expanded view. So then it creates a profound level of effortlessness that starts to come in. So this is the being and the doing are balanced here, because you're just being. And because you're just so deeply in your state of blissful being, and you're holding that so strongly, then the doing happens just so effortlessly. Really, it starts to happen with complete effortlessness. So there is still a feeling of doing here, but it's so much easier. It's almost like you're not doing at all. You know, it's because everything's so light. And so there's instant manifestation. When I'm talking about instant manifestation, how I'm using this instant manifestation is, and we will, as we move into this as a collective, it will be so fast. But how you experience instant manifestation is you literally feel that you are everything. You feel so deeply that you're not feeling lack. When you're embodied in this, you're not feeling like you're feeling that you're everything. And you feel that it's already here, right now. It's already here within you, right here, right now. Because you had a vision, you can see the bigger picture of it. You can see what's all being set up. And so it's already within you. And you're really holding that frequency that there's no possible way that it couldn't exist, because you already feel it right here, right now. So it's already basically manifested for you instantly within your own imagination and your own being. You can't believe or feel anything otherwise. So that's why the doing process and being process, they're so effortless, because that's just, you just know what you are. You're so deeply embodied in your true self that, you know, everything's so light and everything becomes much easier. Creation becomes much easier. So that's how I see when we're into this phase here, when we're all aligning to this phase right now. We are. This is where our community is going. So creating a whole new systems will be so effortless here as we're all moving into this together as a collective. It's going to be so effortless, so effortless. And then so the next stage is basically beyond this. And like I said, there's a fluidity between all of these. So it doesn't mean like if you're here, you can't at some moments have an awakening experience and be here and see the bigger picture all of a sudden and be feeling effortless. You could, and then you could go back into the person mind in another moment. And then you could be here doing an emotional healing phase in another moment, going through processing a trigger, but you're actually facing it and healing it and feeling it. And then you could be letting it go, and then you're focused on your creation again. And then you could be moving here and you're seeing the bigger picture of everything, and you're feeling so connected, and you're more in just the being and letting doing move through you. The doing just starts to happen through you. It's kind of how it feels. It's just happening through you. And then in this phase is where there is no mind. There's no mind here. So this is like the 7th density. And this, you can be in this in any moment. You're just staying as pure awareness and pure awareness, and you are just deeply in presence, and you're staying as awareness, well, yeah, that's where you're at. You're right here, and all ideas are destroyed here. Destroys all ideas here. No ideas are believed. So then the body is being moved. The body is being moved to do things intuitively, what needs to be done, because there's no ideas that are being believed that are moving the body anymore, or appear to be moving the body. And so from this perspective, you could say everything's already done. Everything's already done. That anything believing that there's something to do is an idea. So it's just destroyed. Everything's already done. Everything already is whole and complete in every single moment, in profound presence that you are. So there could never even be an idea believed that there is something to do or something that needs to be moved into. So that is just, everything's already done. Such deep presence is held here, like a constant. This is your default phase. This is the absolute embodied. So you're just in such a deep, it's a complete liberation here. Complete liberation from not even seeing yourself in the body whatsoever. Like you see the body mind in front of you, and you don't feel yourself in there whatsoever. And so it's just a profound liberation, because you can see everything. It's such a God state of perspective. When this is your default, or this is your natural embodied state, you're in the complete God state, how you perceive things. It's very profound. So, and everybody can feel this the longer you stay in presence, the longer you stay as awareness, aware of awareness, well, this is where you're going to go. And in here, it's just like, there is no mind. So it's only the heart. That's all you are, is a heart. And it could be looking like a lot of things, though, because to be honest with you, this, like how I was saying, this is a masculine kind of phase. This is a feminine energy integration phase. Okay. And we have to balance ourselves. This is what source energy, that's what you are, wants to balance itself out, wants to balance these energies of masculine and feminine, but not through more ideas about them. It's through actual, like these kinds of, these aren't just concepts. Okay. This is kind of how vibrationally, how you'll experience things. Okay. And these energies, if you felt into the masculine, feminine energies within yourself, this is what I'm saying. It's like being is more focused. There's more of allowing and openness. Here it's more doing focused. And so it's more of a masculine kind of moving forward energy. And here it's really more of a feminine energy. So there is more of a being here in this. It's more of a feminine, and it's more of a being. There's still doing that's happening, though, in this. There's still explorations that is happening, and there's still a doing that's happening, but it doesn't even feel like a doing really anymore, because it feels like such effortless play and it's just happening through you. So it's all blissful and fun. So it's not even like an idea of like, oh, I need to do something or I need to really focus. It's just like, oh, this is so much fun. And so it just happens. It's just like your body just starts doing those things. But so it's really coming from a state of being. It's more of an embodied state of being and just seeing that everything's moving through you effortlessly. So it's more of a feminine energy focused here. And then here is more of a masculine energy focus without any idea of it. And why I'm saying it's even a masculine energy focus is because it's a destroying kind of energy of destroying all ideas. So it's almost like, really to stay here, when you're just staying in meditation, it's just like, you're staying as awareness. So any idea that would want to come up, it's just like there's like not even allowing it. It's just destroying it in every moment. No, that's not the truth. No, there's no ideas there. There's no ideas. It's only presence. So the longer you would just stay in that practice of awareness, aware of awareness, and not letting any thought come in that you would identify yourself with and destroying it in every single moment, then this is when you'll have complete liberation. The longer you stay there, complete liberation from the mind altogether. So this phase is, like really, there is going to be more beings moving into this phase. So I do see that there is more beings that are moving into this phase. And this kind of phase is, though, it's like before you go back to, likely in this phase, you're not coming back to this planet for sure. Pretty much. I couldn't perceive you necessarily coming back unless you wanted to, but you're kind of done with this. You can't have the same, you're not here anymore. So, if you could go to another planetary system, if that was felt on any level of relevance, but you could also be completely done with all of the whole experience of this universe and go back to the absolute. So there's a fluidity within this, because there could be a fluidity between here. That's kind of my experience. Now, personally, I kind of feel a fluidity like between this and but I'm all of these things, because once you're here, you can see all of these things and feel all of these things. So once you're here, this is really, and you're embodied here, this is where you're all of these things. You're all of these things. And so, but you're not hooked on any one of these things. You could see all of these things, but you couldn't believe any of these things anymore. So even if those thoughts came up, there's no way you could actually believe any of those things, because you could see all perspectives, basically. That's what it is. You're seeing all perspectives here. So you can see all of these perspectives. You can see all of these perspectives. You're all of it. So, and I want to say, like, this is a great kind of a great perspective, Corey, of like, I'm not clear on which density I desire to embody in this incarnation. See, it's interesting because I couldn't perceive it that way, but I could understand how you could perceive it that way, because I actually had that kind of like on my journey of self-realization. I had that kind of I remember trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure it out, like which one am I going to be at? Where am I going to be? And what do I want to be? And I was kind of, which I don't think is a bad thing at all, like, because it actually can create a focus of like, okay, this is what do I really feel that I want to completely be liberated altogether? This is where I see the question coming in is, do I want to go here? Okay. This is really where I would see that there could be a question. From here to here, there is a question about it. Okay. Because this is like, it's all ideas are destroyed, so there's no mind. So basically you're very shifted in your experience, you could say. some ways. So I could see a big question mark in here, but I don't see a question mark with here, because there may be a believed question like, oh, I don't know if I still want to be a person, or if I want to move into an empathic mind. There could be that question that arises. But to be honest with you, it's going to kind of what the energy of the planet is going to push you to. Even if the person mind was saying, I want to stay here, well, the energy of the planet is going to keep pushing you with trigger after trigger to actually move into an emotional healing phase and soften you, so you can be more generous and you can be more focused in being and in presence. So you're going to get kicked out of here one way or another. You are going to get kicked out. So this might be what you've been experiencing. If you've been having a lot of triggers, you're getting kicked out of this person mind. It's not going to be comfortable to stay on it. Even if you're very held on to that identity, it's not going to be comfortable. And it's going to lead to a lot of painful experiences, either physical disease manifested or very emotional challenges. It's just that energy can't be held on the planet where it's moving into. So, and then for the question from here to here, well, I don't see this as a question, because this phase right here, to be honest with you, if you're tuning into my sharings, you can't really stay in this phase. You can't, because everything is being pushed. There is a natural evolution that's happening. It's a natural evolution that's happening. So this isn't a doing process of like you moving in through, and this is fluid. It's fluid. So this isn't a doing process of like, I'm going to decide if I'm going to be here or going to be here. Because it's fluid, because you're going to in some moments be going through emotional healing phase, and you're going to be softening and focused on being. And then in some moments you're going to be focused on feeling very creative and focused on your regimens and what you're doing and what you're creating. That's what's going to happen. So there's kind of a moving around between these two. I see this happening a lot right now. To be honest with you, maybe that this perspective is coming this way to share with you guys, because I see the vision of what is already happening. Okay. And because I see this vision so clearly, it's not possible for me to believe that we're not moving here as a global community. It's impossible for me to see that. And it's not about a doing process, because how I perceive what's going to happen, I already see how effortless it's going to be. So you don't need to decide if you can move here or not, because the thing that wants to decide, you want to be here. You do. This is what you actually are. You already are this. This is what you are. So this is what you are. This is what you already are. That's what I see. You already are this. So you're just getting more aligned to your true self. That's what you are. Because this is all of these things. It is all of these things. This is your natural state. This is what I see. This is your natural state here. That's how I perceive it. This is your natural state of being. You can stay. The thing is, it's not about, oh, I'm here and I have to move to the next thing. No, this state of consciousness here is where you can stay for a very, very long time. Like, this is actually when you're really a natural human being here, is what I feel like. You're a natural human being. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying is you're not natural in these states, but you're just totally balanced in all ways. You're balanced here. So you can stay in this for hundreds of lifetimes and have it just be such a much more productive experience for you, and much more enjoyable lifetimes. So there's not anything that wouldn't want to be here, to be honest with you, embodied in a state of consciousness, is just the only reason it would even feel that way is because there's some kind of fear about something that oh, it's going to be hard for me to get there, or I'm going to lose something if I get there. And so those are fear-based ideas that I couldn't even perceive that, because I'm already like, no, this is just what you are. You're already here. This is what you are. There's just ideas that you're not that, that are coming up, that are making you have these different experiences. That's it. This experience is not a doing to get here. It's actually a letting go of ideas that are actually creating some kind of seeming other phase. So the more you go, you're letting go of more ideas that you're not already what you are as this, in unity, where you can see all perspectives. And you can see the bigger picture, and you're being and doing with effortlessness, and things are manifesting for you instantly. That's what you are. You already are that. So the only thing that's keeping you from feeling that way right now in any given moment is because there's some kind of idea of lack that is being believed. Because in this perspective, you can't believe in lack here. You really can't. You can't believe in lack here. Can't. Here, you could even be believing in lack, to be honest with you. You could be believing in lack somehow. And it could be more subtle, but it could be like you're feeling like, oh my God, somebody else is taking me from my focus right now on my regiments and my creative thing. And there's kind of an idea that could even come up saying that that's lacking by some other being. So that's why it could be perceived sometimes that there's a little bit lesser bit of compassion in some moments because there's such a strong masculine focus of something. But it is still deeper, much deeper in the heart than any of these phases, this phase. But here it's all heart and there is a deep level of compassion, and there is, you're just in, when something wants to come through you to be created, then it's just done. If something wants to come through, just be being and being in presence in that moment, then it's just done. And there's no belief of, oh my God, I should be doing something right now because I'm not focused. I need to be focusing on my creative things, because there's no idea of lack that could be believed in that. It's just, that what's moving through you in each moment is perfect. What's arising in each moment is perfect. You're one with all of it. It's all part of your body. So this is what I see. You guys already are this. This is what you are. You already are here. This is what you are. That's what I see when I see you. So, and the only thing that's happening was we just become fully embodied as this is our defaulted state of being. This is going to be our defaulted state of being, all of us. Okay, is that we just need to be around each other more so that we can hold this frequency of presence. That's how easy it is for us to align to it. We just align with each other in presence. The more that we stay in each other's frequency and we hang around each other and we're around each other and we're like living together and we're being together more and more, then we just align to each other's frequency so naturally and effortlessly. It's not even, you don't need to go and have a profound awakening experience and go to pure consciousness and go to the absolute to actually be this. This is just what you are. You're just aligning and holding a deep state of presence. And we will do that naturally and effortlessly the more time we spend together. That's why I said I want to meet every single one of you guys. I want to meet every single one of you, and I want to hang out with you, and we're going to spend time together because we are going to align together so that this is all of us have this defaulted state of being. This is our default. This is where we're at. And it's okay if triggers come up. It's okay if you're here and this is your default, you might still have, there might be a feeling of judgment that comes up. There might be a feeling of insecurity. There might be a feeling of competition. That's okay. It's okay that stuff comes up, and we'll feel lighter and lighter the more that we're together, because we'll just be able to see this and express it together, and then it gets lighter and lighter until it's just like, it's just happening in front of me. And so then we just talk about it because it's just an exploration at that point. You don't actually believe it. You just feel that and you're like, there's a part of my being that's feeling this. And it's so subtle, it's not really affecting you. It's just happening for exploration, perhaps so you could have a perspective to be able to share on, to help the mainstream collective in a bigger way so that they can be more embodied in a higher state of consciousness, you could say. And so I'm not saying this in some kind of elitist way either. I want you to know that when I'm talking about, this is our community and we're going to be an enlightened society, and then the mainstream is going to be not enlightened. We have to get out of these kind of separation ideas altogether. That's not what I believe. That's not what I feel. I don't feel that at all. But I know naturally the beings who are naturally coming to my sharings and are interested in what I'm sharing is because you are seeing that that's what you are too. So the beings who aren't interested in what I'm sharing, well, that's fine. Like, we just naturally have our own interests. So people are just naturally interested in certain things. If you're naturally connected to me and we want to be friends with me, which I would love to be friends with you, then we can create a community together. And in my community that I want to be in, I want to assist the collective to tapping into more bliss and more freedom and more expansiveness, more openness, more lightness, and that be an embodied state of living too. I want everybody to be feeling how I feel. So I hope that made sense and kind of answered that question or that kind of perspective. So So I don't see it as a decision, but if that feels relevant for you to say, I want to decide where I'm going to be at, then that's perfect too. I'm not going to negate that perspective. I don't know what's right for you. Only you do. So, but I do see that our community, we're just going to align to each other. So, we're just going to align to each other. That's just what happens. The more we stay together, we just align to each other's frequency. So it's so effortless. So, and then we'll just be more blissed out and having more fun together and just hanging out. And we're just going to be ourselves. We're going to be our natural selves, outside of these old fears and lack and limitation. Just be feeling what we are together. Thank you guys so much for for sharing yourselves and for sharing your perspectives. I really love to connect with you in this way. I know I've been sharing a lot on this. It's just feels good to get this kind of more precise information about this out. I'm going to make a chart of this and share it. I'm going to share this online so you guys can kind of see this. And if you have anything else that you want to add to it from your own realizations, I think this will be helpful. I know Bentinho was interested in a school for the different densities, and I kind of tuned into that. And I feel like at some point that actually will probably be created. Something like that will be created at some point, because it could be very powerful to just have this kind of information. We need to have this information on this planet, so that people that are ready to move, our main collective here, the whole collective is moving into this, but anybody that anybody can be what they are. This is just really all the differences from here is just how many ideas are you actually identified with. That's really what it is. That's what you see. Everything is ideas. Every single thing is an idea. And when you get here, there's no ideas at all. So the only difference between here, you always are this too. Every single moment, you are the absolute. There's no ideas in the absolute. But you can't have explorations without some kind of ideas. So here you're having ideas, but they're very light and subtle because you're not believing them. They're just happening in front of you. So it's very subtle, but it's still fun explorations because it's fun to have explorations. And then so it just kind of gets more and more ideas the further away from this you go. Whereas here it's just constant fear-based, lack-based ideas that are in hypnosis, constant running, constant voice in the head, constantly talking loud and projecting fear and stress and worry. So it's just really a letting go process. That's what happens, letting more and more and more go. So letting more of the thoughts kind of go, the loud thoughts go, and you're getting more and more and more into the heart. So there's more clarity of mind. The more you move into the heart, you have a natural infinite intelligence that's moving through your being of just knowing things without having to figure them out and think about them and overthink and keep analyzing. You don't have to go into that. You can utilize that part of the mind, and you'll utilize it for creating things. Yes, we need analytical minds to be able to create certain things, but we don't need analytical minds to be wondering why we're such a horrible person and why we're not good enough and analyzing why all of these things that are so toxic, and why other people are not good and why we need to be against other people. And, that the mind can get so focused on very destructive behaviors when it's not purified through more and more presence. I love you all so much. It's so good to connect with you. If you have any questions, please post them down below, and I'll answer them as best I can, or we can try to tune into a new perspective together. I so love that kind of exploration, to be honest with you. And I don't project what's coming through my being to be. This is the only perspective. This is just what's coming through, how it's coming through my perspective. So if there's something that's coming in and you want to share it, I'd love to hear about it, because we're all the one being together, utilizing these mind-body systems as channeling devices to receive this information to assist our collective in moving into more of our true self, more of our natural state of being again. I love you all so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.